All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a really fascinating concept, the unpruned mind. We're going to look at some new research that gives us a whole new way to understand the bipolar brain.
But first, I want you to think about this question. What if your brain never cleaned itself? Seriously, imagine your mind is a room and you just never, ever tidy it up. At first, it's a little cluttered, but over time it just becomes chaotic, completely jammed, to the point where it's almost impossible to navigate. Well, that very idea, that's the key to unlocking a major scientific breakthrough. So to really get a handle on what happens when the brain doesn't clean itself, we first need to meet its invisible but absolutely essential cleaning crew. The best way to picture a healthy brain is to think of it like a garden. It's not static, right? It's this living, dynamic thing. As we go through life, learning and experiencing stuff, our brain sprouts all these new connections, kind of like new pathways and plants in a garden. But just like any garden, if you just let everything grow wild, you get an overgrown mess. A healthy garden and a healthy brain needs regular weeding and tidying up to really flourish.
And that brings us from the garden metaphor to the actual science. This biological tidying up process, it has a name. It's called neural pruning. Neural pruning is, honestly, one of the most brilliant things your brain does. It's basically a use it or lose it system, but on a microscopic level. Your brain actively gets rid of the connections, the synapses, that aren't being used very often. And by doing that, it actually makes the connections you do use all the time much, much stronger. It's not about losing information, it's about creating a super efficient, high-speed network.
So how does it work? Well, it's a pretty elegant process. First, especially when we're young, our brain just goes wild, overproducing connections. It's an explosion of potential pathways. Then, based on what we do and experience, the brain starts to identify which connections are just, well, clutter. Step 3 is when the cleaning crew comes in and systematically snips away that clutter. And this is the crucial part, step 4. The pathways that are left become stronger, faster, and way more reliable. It's literally how we learn to do things well and form stable thoughts.
But what happens when that beautiful, essential system breaks down? What happens when the cleaning crew just doesn't show up for work?
This right here is the core of the discovery. New research strongly suggests that in bipolar disorder, this whole process of neural pruning is seriously disrupted. The brain's ability to clean house, to tidy up that garden, is impaired. So those unnecessary, weak, and frankly confusing connections, they don't get cleared away like they're supposed to.
And this just shows you the stark difference. On one side, you have a healthy brain, an efficient, pruned network. It looks like a clean, easy-to-read map. But on the other side, you have the unpruned brain. Congested, cluttered. It's like a map with thousands of extra roads, dead ends, and confusing routes all tangled up on top of each other.
So what does it actually feel like to live with that? To try and navigate that kind of congestion, day in and day out? I mean, this quote from the research really says it all. The result is a network that's impossible to navigate. Just try to imagine getting a single thought or feeling from point A to point B through all of that static and clutter. It's got to be an incredibly tough internal environment to live in.
And this neural traffic jam leads directly to some very real consequences. With so many extra pathways lying around, a thought can easily get bounced onto a strange side road, leading to what the researchers call abnormal thoughts. And with all that background noise from unused connections, it can be really hard to interpret things clearly, creating confusing signals. You're constantly fighting to find clarity in the chaos.
So let's zoom out. What's the big takeaway here? Why is this idea of an unpruned mind so incredibly important?
Well, it's a game changer because it shifts our entire understanding. It moves the conversation away from just describing a list of symptoms and behaviors and moves it toward a concrete biological reason for the challenges someone is facing. It helps reframe the condition, not as some kind of personal failing, but as a tangible issue with the brain's physical wiring, a problem with that crucial pruning machine.
And that leaves us with a really profound and I think hopeful question for the future. If we now get that the brain is a network and the problem is a congested, tangled map, then the next great challenge is to figure out how can we help redraw that map. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.